Certainly, here's an expanded version of the first point. Everything happens in its time, the seed principle. Written in a calm, reflective tone similar to Shi Heng Yi's speaking style, with a word count close to 700 words, there is a wisdom in nature that we often overlook. A language that speaks without words, a rhythm that beats quietly beneath all things. If you listen closely, you'll begin to notice that nothing in life happens randomly. The falling of the leaves, the blooming of flowers, the rise and set of the sun all follow a silent timing. That same rhythm, that same intelligence exists within us. When God said, "Everything is planned for the start of July," it was not merely a sentence. It was a reminder that timing matters, that divine timing is always working, even when we do not understand it, even when we are anxious or frustrated or lost. And to truly grasp this, we must learn from the principle of the seed. A seed, by appearance, is small and unremarkable, yet inside it lies an entire tree, a forest, a future. But no matter how hard you try, you cannot force a seed to bloom in winter. You cannot demand it to bear fruit before its roots have reached deep into the soil. The seed doesn't resist this process. It does not question it. It simply waits. It trusts the environment, the temperature, the conditions, until it knows it is time to break open, and so must we. Often, when life doesn't go the way we expect, we feel something is wrong. We feel left behind. We assume we've missed the opportunity, or worse, we blame ourselves for not moving faster. But there is a big difference between delay and divine timing. What looks like a pause from our limited perspective may actually be the universe aligning things for our highest good. You see, growth is not always visible. Just because nothing seems to be happening on the outside does not mean that transformation isn't occurring on the inside. The most powerful shifts often happen beneath the surface, like the roots of a tree pushing downward into the darkness before the first sprout ever emerges. That is the patience of nature. That is the patience of the seed. In this same way, July may be your moment, not because you just decided to begin something, but because all the preparation you've been doing silently, emotionally, spiritually, was never in vain. It was building, quietly, faithfully, and now something is aligned. Something unseen is finally ready to rise. And here is the paradox. A seed must break in order to grow. That means the breaking is not the end, but the beginning. The same is true for you. Maybe the confusion you felt recently was not a failure, but the cracking open of something deeper. Maybe the restlessness you felt was the energy of your potential pressing against the walls of your old self. Growth isn't always comfortable, but it is always necessary. What you must understand is this: you are not late. You are not early. You are on time. Exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there. Life is not a race, it is a rhythm. The mind will always tell you to hurry, but the soul knows better. The soul moves with seasons, not deadlines, and when the soul hears the whisper, "Now is the time," it doesn't rush. It aligns. The start of July carries this energy. It is not just a date. It is a doorway. Not because everything magically changes overnight, but because something within you recognizes the shift. A quiet inner knowing that says, "This is my season. I have prepared, I have waited, and now I rise." Not in haste, but in harmony. Trust that what is meant for you will never pass you. It may take time, it may require patience, humility, and faith, but it will find you. Because like the seed in the soil, you were never forgotten. You were simply being prepared to bloom in your time. Let others rush ahead if they must, but you, stay grounded, stay patient, stay faithful. For just as nature honors its own timing, so too does your life. And when the season is right, nothing can stop what is meant to grow. There are seasons in life when it feels as if nothing is moving. You show up, you try, you wait, and still, the results are not what you hoped for. You question whether your effort matters, whether your patience has meaning. You wonder if perhaps you misunderstood the signs. Maybe you even feel invisible, like your dedication is unnoticed, not just by the world, but by God. But the truth is, nothing is wasted, not a single breath, not a single day spent in honest preparation. The time you think is empty may be the most important time of all. Preparation is sacred. It is the space between the calling and the arrival. It is the quiet work done behind the scenes, the kind of work no one applauds because no one sees it. But God sees, life sees. And most importantly, your soul sees. There is a story being written that begins long before the first page is shown to the world. The training happens in silence, the roots grow in darkness, and just because it doesn't look like progress, doesn't mean it's not progress. There is no such thing as wasted discipline. There is only stored strength. You see, the preparation stage is not punishment. It is protection. It ensures that when the moment of purpose comes, you are ready to carry it. Not just in your hands, but in your character. Because without the depth built in preparation, the weight of the blessing would crush you. Ask a warrior when they become strong. It is not during the battle. It is in the quiet hours of training when no one is watching. When the body is tired, but the spirit is willing. When the temptation to quit is strong, but the intention to persist is stronger. That is where true power is forged. In the same way, the moments in your life that feel like waiting are not dead space. They are sharpening you. They are testing your focus, strengthening your patience, aligning your energy with your intention. Not just so you can receive what you desire, but so you can sustain it. People often want the result, but not the process. They ask for success but skip the structure. But life doesn't work that way. Life honors those who respect the discipline of preparation. Because without the preparation, the moment you've been praying for will slip through your fingers. A tree does not resist the winter. It knows that the cold season is not a sign of failure, but a part of the cycle. It waits, it stores its energy, and when the warmth returns, it does not panic. It is already prepared to grow. This is what July brings. Not just an external shift, but an internal permission to rise from a place of readiness, because the effort you've made in private is not forgotten, the tears you cried alone, the mornings you got up early to push forward, the nights you wrestled with doubt but still held onto your vision. All of that is recorded in your spirit. It is not empty. It is not invisible. It is sacred. Preparation shapes who you are becoming. It refines your intentions. It teaches you to act with clarity, not desperation, to walk with presence, not panic. And this is what separates those who fall when opportunity comes from those who rise with grace. So if you are in a season of silence, do not despise it. If no one sees the work you're doing, let it be a deeper offering. The best musicians practice before the performance. The best builders measure twice before they cut. The most stable structures are not built quickly. They are built carefully, deliberately, and with respect for the foundation. Your preparation is your foundation. It does not need applause to be meaningful. It does not need an audience to be real. It only needs your full attention, your honest presence, and your quiet belief that what you are doing now will echo later in ways you cannot yet see. So when God says, it begins in July, it is not because July is magical. It is because you have been preparing, you have been aligning, you have been trusting even when there was no proof, and now the time is near, not because of luck, but because of sacred preparation. There is a reason why the masters of old always sought silence, why monks climb mountains, why sages sit by rivers, and why wisdom often finds its voice not in noise, but in stillness. Because there is a law of life that never changes. Clarity does not come when you are rushing. It comes when you are still. You see, the mind is like water. When it is agitated, it becomes cloudy. You cannot see your reflection. You cannot see the truth. But when the water is calm, it becomes a mirror. And this is why stillness is not laziness. Stillness is not a lack of effort. It is discipline of a higher order. In a world that constantly urges you to move faster, produce more, speak louder, and do something, choosing to be still is an act of courage. Because when you slow down, the distractions fall away, and all that's left is you. No masks, no roles, no excuses, just your own thoughts, your own breath, your own soul, and that can be uncomfortable. But it is necessary. If you cannot sit with yourself, how can you lead yourself? If your mind is always reacting, how will you ever respond with wisdom? Stillness is not the opposite of action. It is the foundation of right action. Without clarity, action is guesswork. Without clarity, even the right opportunity will pass by unnoticed, or worse, be met with the wrong energy. And so, before you move, you must see. Before you speak, you must understand. Before you decide, you must know where you truly stand. This is the mirror principle. Just as a mirror reflects without distortion when it is clean and still, your life reflects truth when your mind is undisturbed and present. But a mirror cannot show you your face if it is covered in dust, and your heart cannot show you its wisdom if it is covered in noise, fear, or distraction. Many people move through life reacting to the surface of things, reacting to people's opinions, reacting to pressure, reacting to deadlines. But to react is not the same as to respond. Response requires presence. Response requires awareness, and awareness comes only in silence. This is why many miss their timing, not because they were unworthy, not because they were unprepared, but because they were too distracted to recognize what was in front of them. The signal came, but they were too busy to hear it. God does not shout. Life does not beg for your attention. It whispers, and to hear the whisper, you must be quiet enough inside to listen. The start of July is a door, not just for action, but for insight. Before you set goals, ask yourself why. Before you chase what you want, ask if it is aligned with who you are. Before you run forward, take time to stop, look in the mirror, and truly observe. Who are you now in this moment? Not who you were last year, not who you pretend to be for others, but the person that remains when all else falls away. Stillness gives you access to that self. It is the mirror that reveals truth, and truth is the only foundation strong enough to support your next step. You do not need more information. You need more insight. You do not need to force clarity. You need to make space for it. In stillness, the chaos settles. In stillness, your intuition rises. In stillness, your spirit can finally speak, and what it tells you may not always be easy. Sometimes the mirror shows us fear we've avoided, attachments we must release, or lies we've told ourselves to feel safe. But even these truths are gifts, because when you see clearly, you can live clearly. And a clear life is a powerful life. So let July not just be a season of motion, but a season of mirrors. Set aside time to sit in silence, to breathe, to observe, to ask. Not with anxiety, but with openness. What is trying to emerge through me now? What am I truly ready for? Do not underestimate the power of a quiet mind. From stillness comes vision. From vision comes direction. And from direction comes impact. Before a warrior draws his sword, he studies the battlefield. Before a master carves the stone, he sees the form within it. And before you take your next step, you must first become still enough to see the path. Clarity is not found in motion, it is found in presence. There is a kind of action that builds, and there is a kind of action that destroys. The difference is not always visible from the outside. Two people may work equally hard. They may both seem disciplined, focused, and driven. But one moves from alignment, the other from confusion. One flows, the other forces, and though both are in motion, only one is walking a path that leads to peace. This is why action alone is not enough. It must come from clarity. It must come from alignment. Alignment is when your body, your mind, your energy, and your purpose are moving in the same direction. It is when you are not just doing something, but becoming someone. It is when the path you walk reflects the values you carry, and the actions you take echo the truth of your inner self. Without this alignment, even good intentions can lead to chaos. You rush to make a decision, and it leads to regret. You chase a goal that doesn't belong to you, and it leads to emptiness. You work without pause, and it leads to burnout, not because you were lazy, but because you were disconnected. We live in a world that praises movement. Do more, be more, go faster. But very rarely are we taught to stop and ask, why am I doing this? Is this action coming from love or fear? Is it driven by my soul or by my ego? These are uncomfortable questions. But they are necessary, because when action is not rooted in truth, it creates imbalance. You may succeed externally while suffering internally. You may achieve the goal and still feel lost. This is not because effort is wrong, but because effort without intention becomes noise. There is a difference between movement and progress. A spinning wheel is moving constantly, but it goes nowhere. Likewise, a person can stay busy from morning to night and still feel stuck. This is the chaos of unaligned action. The mind may say, keep pushing, but the spirit is whispering, wait. The ego says, prove yourself, but the soul asks, heal yourself first. And if you don't pause long enough to hear the deeper voice, you'll be pulled in many directions, none of which lead you home. Alignment is not found in hurry. It is found in presence, in stillness, in the quiet space where you can finally ask, is this path true to me, or is it based on someone else's expectations? Sometimes we act because we are afraid to stop. We fear what we might find if we slow down. We fear stillness because stillness reveals truth, and truth may ask us to change direction, to let go, or to wait longer than we want. But acting out of fear only leads to misalignment. And misalignment always has a cost, either now or later. When you are aligned, you don't have to chase every opportunity. You don't need to please everyone. You don't act out of panic or pressure. Instead, you move with intention. With trust, you understand that the right action at the wrong time is still the wrong step, and the right time with the wrong energy is still the wrong move. Life is not a race, it is a rhythm. You must learn to feel when it's time to act and when it's time to listen. When it's time to speak and when it's time to remain quiet. Action becomes powerful not because it is fast, but because it is true. When God says, everything is planned for the start of July, that is not just permission to act. It is an invitation to align, to check within and ask, am I clear? Am I centered? Am I walking this path because I know it's mine, or because I fear what happens if I stop walking? Aligned action feels different. It doesn't drain you. It energizes you. It doesn't rush, it flows. It doesn't demand constant validation. It feels right, even in silence, and even when it challenges you, you sense that something deep within is being strengthened, not scattered. Let July be the time you act from alignment. Let your decisions rise from a still place within you, not from the noise of the world. Let your discipline reflect your devotion to truth, not your fear of failure. In every path of growth, there is a point where things begin to stretch, a point where the ground feels shaky, where the way forward becomes unclear, and where you begin to question everything. This is not the end. It is not failure. It is the test, and the test will always come before the transformation. You see, transformation is not simply a new version of yourself appearing overnight. It is a process of letting go. It is the slow, uncomfortable shedding of old identities, outdated habits, limiting beliefs. It is an undoing before it is a becoming, and this undoing is not passive. It is difficult. It challenges you, breaks your patterns, and demands that you face what you would rather avoid. This is why the test is not a punishment. It is preparation. It is the threshold you must cross before the next level of your life is unlocked. Not to prove your worth, but to prove your readiness. The test comes to ask you, are you really who you say you are? It's easy to speak about patience when nothing is testing your patience. It's easy to talk about peace when life is calm, but real growth is revealed not in what you say, but in how you respond when the pressure comes. And pressure always comes before elevation. A seed must break before it grows. The shell cracks, the form dissolves, and only then does the life within begin to emerge. If the seed resists this process, it will never become the tree it was meant to be. In the same way, you must be willing to allow parts of you to break. Parts that are no longer aligned, no longer useful, no longer true. The test reveals what is strong and what is not. It will bring up your fear, your impatience, your attachment to control. It will ask you to trust when the outcome is uncertain, to move when the path is unclear, to stay grounded when everything around you is shifting. These are not easy lessons, but they are sacred, because through them you are forged. Look back on your life and you'll see. Every major transformation was preceded by a storm, by doubt, by loss, by confusion. But those moments did not break you. They awakened something deeper within you. They introduced you to strength you didn't know you had. They humbled you, refined you, shaped you. The same is true now. If you find yourself in a difficult place, do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead ask, "What is this trying to reveal in me?" Because nothing tests you without reason, there is something in you that life is trying to access, something greater, stronger, more authentic. But that version of you cannot emerge without the test. The test may come as delay, as rejection, as pressure, as silence. It may come through people who trigger you, through situations that frustrate you, through circumstances that stretch you. But behind all of it is the same quiet question: are you ready to rise? Many people run from the test. They distract themselves. They try to skip steps. They numb the discomfort. But transformation cannot be rushed. The cocoon cannot be broken open from the outside. The butterfly must struggle to free itself, because that very struggle strengthens its wings. Without it, it cannot fly. So do not despise the test. Do not run from it. Honor it. Lean into it. Breathe through it. It is not a wall blocking your way. It is the door to who you are becoming. Let this be your mindset as July begins. If it feels heavy, it does not mean you are lost. It means you are being refined. If it feels uncertain, it does not mean you are failing. It means you are being prepared. And remember, the fire that burns also purifies. You are being shaped into someone who can carry more peace, more clarity, more power. Not in theory, but in practice. Not when everything is easy, but precisely because things were hard and you stayed true to yourself anyway. This is the real work. Transformation is not found in comfort. It is earned in the quiet moments of courage when no one is watching. It is born in the places where you refuse to give up, where you bend, but do not break, where you say, "Even this, I will use to grow." So when the test comes, welcome it. Let it strip away the unnecessary. Let it reveal the unshakable, and no transformation is not far away. There is a quiet power that does not shout, does not push, does not fight. It does not seek control, and yet it moves with more confidence than fear ever could. That power is surrender. Most people misunderstand surrender. They confuse it with giving up. They associate it with passivity, weakness, or failure. But true surrender is none of these things. True surrender is strength in its most honest and courageous form. Surrender does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you walk away from effort or abandon responsibility. It means you stop resisting what is beyond your control. You stop forcing life to bend to your will, and instead allow it to flow according to its deeper wisdom. You see, there are two kinds of strength. One is the kind that clenches its fists, that tries to control every outcome, that lives in constant tension and fear. The other is the strength that opens its hands, softens its breath, and walks forward with trust. The first is exhausting, the second is empowering. It takes much more strength to trust than it does to control. We live in a world that teaches us to always push. Push for results, push for answers, push for perfection. But life is not built on constant pressure. Just as the ocean does not crash against the shore without also pulling back into stillness, we must also learn the rhythm of effort and surrender. Without surrender, effort becomes destructive. Without trust, ambition turns to anxiety. You can plant the seed, you can water the soil, but you cannot force the flower to bloom. There is a moment when you must step back and allow nature to take over. This is surrender. It is knowing when to act and when to let go. Surrender begins with acceptance. Acceptance does not mean you like everything that happens. It means you stop arguing with reality. You stop saying, "This should not be," and begin asking, "What is this here to teach me?" That shift in perspective is what turns pain into growth, setbacks into lessons, and delays into divine timing. When God says everything is planned for the start of July, that is not just a promise of action, it is an invitation to trust. To stop grasping so tightly at life, to stop trying to control every outcome, to soften your grip, take a breath, and walk with faith instead of fear. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to stop fighting. Not because you are weak, but because you realize that what is meant for you does not need to be forced. It only needs to be met with readiness and trust. The ego wants to control. It says, "I must fix this. I must change this. I must make this happen now." But the soul knows better. The soul understands that life has a rhythm, a timing, a wisdom of its own, and it is when we align ourselves with that rhythm that we find peace. Surrender is not failure, it is freedom. It frees you from the constant pressure of having all the answers. It frees you from the burden of pretending to be in control of everything. It frees you from the illusion that your worth is tied to your performance. When you surrender, you are not collapsing. You are returning to yourself, to presence, to trust. And yes, surrender requires humility, but humility is not weakness either. It is the recognition that you are part of something greater than yourself, that you don't have to carry everything alone, that you are allowed to rest, to breathe, to let go. This is the kind of strength that cannot be shaken, because it is not based on external control. It is rooted in inner alignment. So as you step into this season, this beginning, this July, do so with openness. Yes, bring your discipline. Yes, bring your focus, but also bring your trust. Bring your willingness to be surprised. Bring your softness. Let go of needing every answer now. Let go of timelines that only serve your fear. Let life unfold. Let grace move through the places you can't reach. And remember, what is meant for you is not held back by force. It is drawn to your surrender. Because when you stop resisting, you begin receiving. And in that space, in that quiet, open space, true transformation begins.